Hello and welcome back once again to Movie Reviews. I know it's been a while, but we're back, finally. So I finally got around to seeing some movies. I'm going to see a few more. I know a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be reviewing over the next month has been out for a while. Most of you have probably already seen it. But I got to get back into something because I have nowhere near enough movies for my end of the year list at all. So I got to pad that out a little bit. First movie I got back around to seeing is The Martian. Again, I know it's been out for a little bit. Most of you probably saw it opening week. But finally got around to seeing it and thought I'd give you my thoughts on it. Giving you my thoughts on a movie I came up with. So, here's the backstory on this. There's this movie that gets both a lot of respect and a lot of crap, depending on who you talk to. But it's a movie that I like quite a bit, and that is Castaway with Tom Hanks. You know, the one where he's on an island and the volleyball named Wilson. So, quite a few years back when I kind of first started all this, I saw an advertisement for another movie that was called Castaway on the Moon. And I remember thinking, what an interesting concept. Taking Castaway, but putting it, instead of on an island, put it on the moon. And I was talking to a friend of mine about it, actually a couple of friends, one, or at least one of them might still watch these videos, I don't know. It's been a while since I talked to them. And I was saying what an interesting concept it would be, because as I looked at the description of this movie, Castaway on the Moon, it had nothing to do with Castaway, it had nothing to do with the moon. I don't even remember what it was about, but the description made it unappealing to me. So it was probably really chick-heavy at that point if I had turned away from it. So I was talking about, what an interesting concept that would be. Take the ideas in Castaway, but have it be with an astronaut who somehow something happens and they get stranded on the moon. The rest of the crew has to leave for some reason, they get left behind, and they have to find a way to survive off of what they have on the moon until a rescue party can get up there and get to them. And I made a comment about, obviously you would have your setup that they could work off of a little bit, but the idea would be that they'd have to go to old landing sites and harvest equipment and stuff to try to find a way to survive until a rescue mission could get there. And that was kind of the end of the conversation. I mean, we talked about it a little bit more, but that was the in-depth part of it. And then I saw this advertisement a while back for The Martian. Didn't even realize it was a book. Apparently the book came out around the same year that I had that conversation with my friends, so obviously great minds think alike, right? Somebody else had a similar idea the time I did, but instead of putting the Castaway on the moon, they put them on Mars. Which I guess Mars would be the more survivable environment because it is a planet where the moon is just a rock of dirt. So I guess they could more easily come up with ways to survive on Mars. But apparently this book came out shortly after I had that conversation, so obviously the guy had been thinking about it for a while. But then I didn't even know about the book, because I don't read a lot of books, unfortunately. But then I saw the advertisement for the movie, and I was like, oh, what's that about? So I watched the preview, and I was like, that's my idea. They just moved it from the moon to Mars. So I was interested in seeing it just for that aspect, because finally I get to see this concept that I came up with played out. How is it going to play out? Is it going to be like I imagined it? And pretty much, yeah. And as intriguing of a movie as it is, at the same time, it's going to run into that same problem that Castaway did, where it's an intriguing concept, but at the same time, because it's such a basic concept and focuses on one character the whole time, and they don't really interact with anyone else, it can get semi-boring, but at the same time not boring, because you're interested in what's going on, but there's really not a whole lot in depth of it. If that makes any sense, I don't know. So, I mean, that's kind of why Castaway got a bunch of crap, because it was a good movie, but it was Tom Hanks on an island talking to himself in a volleyball. And like you were intrigued as like how's he going to get off of the island, but at the same time that's all it was one guy on an island. So I can see why it got crap too, but at the same time I don't think it deserved it, and I think this film kind of falls into that same line. You're interested in seeing how this guy's going to survive on Mars, which over the course of time could get a little bit boring, but at the same time it's just interesting enough to keep you intrigued for the whole runtime. Speaking of runtime, it's a 2.5-hour movie, which I thought was going to be kind of long, but one thing I am happy about is the movie starts with them already on Mars, everything's already established, and it goes right into them having to cut their trip short and why they had to cut the trip short, which I liked because in a 2.5-hour movie I was thinking, okay, the whole first hour is just going to be them getting from Earth to Mars, like with Elysium. Like, the movie's called Elysium, and he didn't even get to Elysium or really see any part of Elysium until like the last 15 minutes of the movie, and that was like a 2-hour movie. So I was thinking, it's going to be one of those things where it's going to take like half the movie for them to even get to Mars, then he's going to get left behind, and then they're going to try and rush so much into the last like third of the movie that it's going to ruin it. But they didn't do that. They were already on Mars, everything was already established, something happened, the crew had to take off. They thought he got struck by some debris, and they thought he died because they couldn't find him. And they had to leave, or the whole crew could have died. So they chose to leave him behind. Turns out he was still alive, which they didn't find out till much, much later. And he basically had to survive until a rescue plan could be hatched. First, he had to survive long enough for NASA to find out that he was alive, and then once that happened, then he had to figure out how to stretch everything even further, because it was going to be like 4 years before the next manned mission to Mars where he could hitch a ride back with. And then he would have to go from his landing point all the way over to this other landing point, which was like probably, I think he said he would have to travel by vehicle, because he had his rover, a total of like 50 days or 15 days. I didn't fully catch that. It might have only been 15, but it sounded like he said 50. And by the way he looked when he finally got there, it might have been 50. But yeah, so he was going to have to travel an extended period of time to get to the other launch site, which means it's quite a distance away. But he was trying to figure out when exactly to make that trip because of how long it was. And then they found out he was alive, getting into the rest of the movie now. So they do find out he's alive. They do schedule a rescue mission. The first one actually, spoilers, fails. He runs into some complications where his supplies are jeopardized in a way. So his time grows even shorter. He's still able to survive, but it cuts back the window of how long they have to rescue him. So then they have to launch a new plan to try and get something to him quicker, either supplies or a rescue mission. So they're working on that, and yeah, it pretty much plays out the way you would think it does. I don't want to spoil too much of the movie. I also don't want to make this video too long because I got some other stuff I got to do within like 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to try to wrap this up as quickly as possible. I don't want to give away too much of the movie, but it plays out about like you would think it does. Obviously the way Castaway played out. And that's, it runs that course, and then that's kind of the end of the movie. That part I'm leaving out is actually pretty funny and interesting, though, so there is that. But yeah, overall, it's an intriguing movie. As I said, it's enough to keep you entertained and interested in what's going on through the entire 2.5-hour run. One thing where this differs from Castaway is this does cut back to Earth and NASA and what they're trying to do periodically. Which, with this type of movie, you would have to, even in the concept I was coming up with, that would have had to have happened. Yeah, so where Castaway, he just kind of comes up with this plan on his own and then eventually makes it back. In this, it does both sides of the equations, which was kind of made the movie a little bit more, gave the movie a little bit more substance, I guess is all I could really say about it. So, not much else to say about it other than that. Do I recommend it? Yes. If you're into space travel and things like Castaway, go check it out. As far as a star rating on this, I would give it... The runtime I don't think really needed to be as long as it was, but it did go rather quickly. Like, I didn't even realize that it was getting as close to the end as it was, other than the way the movie was playing out. Because, honestly, it was 2.5 hours, but it felt like it was only 2 because of how well-paced it was. So, I don't think it really needed to be quite as long as it was. They could have shaved a little bit out of it. But at the same time, I'm not going to give it too much of a strike because of that. Because, like I said, the way it paced, it didn't even feel that long, honestly. As far as the star rating on this one, I'm going to go... I'm going to say a 4 on this one. I was going to give it a little bit lower, but just because there are points where, like I said, I could see where people might think it would get a little bit boring. But at the same time, I don't think it deserves to lose those points. So I'm going to keep it at a 4 out of 5. Yeah, and that's it for The Martian. I'm going to get back into seeing more movies. I got a list over here of 14 I'm going to try and see before the end of this month, plus whatever else is coming out in the final month of the year. I know we got the Krampus movie coming out around Christmas, Star Wars 7, a couple other things that are on the upcoming list, but as far as what's out now, what I've missed and everything, there's about 12 or 13 on that list that I'm going to try and cram through before those other ones come out. Also, on a side note, some of the stuff that came out this year was just released on DVD, like American Ultra I was going to see in theater, and the day I was going was the day they pulled it. And that's just come out on DVD, so that and a handful of other things just came out on DVD that I was going to see that have come out this year. So what I'm thinking about doing, I might go over to the Redbox and rent them, come home, watch them, and then do a review on them that way. I know this is usually the stuff I see in the theater. Like I said, I do want to start doing some DVD reviews, but I think I'll do these still as movie reviews as opposed to DVD reviews, but mainly because I'm not going to do them in the format that I want to do DVD reviews. It would still be along this format where it's just me sitting in front of the camera telling you about the movie, a movie that you can easily get. For example, Home just came out on DVD and it's already on Netflix, so I'll probably watch that later tonight and do a quick review on that since it just came out. So that one's still kind of fresh, even though it came out a few months ago. So anyway, there might be some of those also throughout the rest of the year. But yeah, so I don't want to ramble too much. Like I said, I got some other things I got to go take care of, and I'm pushing time right now. So that is it for this episode. Again, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, fave, whatever you can do. Yeah, so until next time, we'll see you at the movies.